Coming up on Mountain News this morning, a 7-day manhunt for a shooting suspect in Montana is over. And on Friday, 6th District Congressman Andy Barr was in eastern Kentucky as he campaigns for U.S. Senate.
Dedicated to eastern and southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News this morning.
Good morning, I'm Caroline Mueller. It is just at that 6 a.m. mark today, and it is Monday, August 11th. Let's check in with meteorologist Megan Desmond for a look at your forecast this morning. Now, Megan, it was a pretty hot weekend. Is that going to continue today?
Yes, unfortunately, those hot temperatures are just going to continue into the start of your work week. We do have a slight decrease as we're heading into your Wednesday, but still, just consider it a hot and steamy week as we're going through the next couple of days. Now, this morning, what you need to be aware of is there is some fog out there, relatively low compared to what we have seen over the past couple weeks. The densest fog right now is as we're traveling towards portions of Whitley County, as well as if you're heading into Perry County. Now, in terms of the skies, though, we are nice and clear. Not seeing any rain falling this morning, just a little bit of some clouds. And the temperatures aren't too bad as you're walking out the door, mainly sitting in a mixture of those 60s, with the exception of 72 in Monticello, 70 in Harlan, Pikeville, and in Logan. And as we're going into the afternoon, no surprise here, hot temperatures, upper 80s and low 90s is what you can expect around that 4 o'clock time frame. So here's a breakdown of the next couple of hours. Again, hot temperatures, looking at a mixture of mostly sunny to partly cloudy skies. Caroline.
All right, Megan, thank you. A fire broke out at an Estill County campground. Crews saw heavy smoke coming from a lodge at Aldersgate Camp Saturday afternoon. The flames went through the building's first floor and eventually through the roof. It took crews 4 hours to put the fire out. On Facebook, Millers Creek Fire Rescue said their thoughts and prayers are with the community, calling the fire a huge loss. Prestonsburg police say a teen wanted in connection with a shooting incident has turned himself in. Officers say Weston Harris came to the Floyd County Sheriff's Office Friday morning to surrender to authorities. He was taken to the Floyd County Jail. Last week, we told you that a 17-year-old had also been charged. Several vehicles were hit by bullets 2 weeks ago in the Bull Creek area, and nobody was hurt. A Whitley County woman was sentenced to 13 years in prison. 42-year-old Melissa Bennett of Williamsburg pleaded guilty to 2 counts of trafficking meth, as well as promoting contraband and possession of a controlled substance. She pleaded guilty to those charges back in June. According to an indictment, she was accused of trafficking meth last year. Police in Athens, Ohio say one woman is in the hospital and a shooting suspect is now dead after an hours-long barricade situation. It happened Thursday just off the campus of Ohio University. Folks in the area were told to shelter in place for most of the afternoon with a heavy police presence. Police say the suspect was barricaded inside with a note indicating they had explosives.
We're right across from it, so I was kind of freaking out. Like, I've never really been through something like this before, and so was my mom.
Athens police say the shooting victim is in stable condition after being flown to a hospital in Columbus, Ohio. Police have not released the name of the suspect. A 7-day manhunt for a shooting suspect in Montana is over. Authorities say 45-year-old Michael Brown was taken into custody. Crews spent days in rugged terrain looking for the military veteran who is suspected of killing 4 people at a bar. A police officer is dead after reports of an active shooter near the Emory University campus in Atlanta, Georgia. The incident took place near the entrance of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, where the federal agency's employees say bullets struck the window of several CDC buildings. The shooter was found on the 2nd floor of a building across the street from the CDC and died at the scene. The Associated Press says the man blamed the COVID-19 vaccine for making him depressed and suicidal. It's been 2 years since a deadly wildfire leveled much of a historic community on the Hawaiian island of Maui. Residents in Lahaina are still struggling to cope with painful losses and an uncertain future. Rebuilding Lahaina is far from over, and displaced residents will lose housing assistance from FEMA come February. New construction along with the city's Front Street business district is particularly non-existent. The wildfire killed 102 people and destroyed more than 2,200 structures. This morning, President Donald Trump says he'll hold a news conference to discuss crime and cleaning up Washington, D.C. after taking the controversial step of deploying federal law enforcement throughout the nation's capital. The president had been threatening a federal takeover of the city after an ex-DOJ staffer was allegedly assaulted last week. On the international front, President Trump is also gearing up to meet up with Russian President Vladimir Putin this week in Alaska, days after the president's proposed deadline for a ceasefire deal came and went. CBS News' Bradley Blackburn has more from New York.
Soon, President Trump is expected to address his decision to deploy more federal law enforcement throughout Washington, D.C. On social media, the president claimed crime numbers are getting worse, and he demanded, quote, the homeless have to move out immediately, adding, we want our capital back. The city's mayor pushed back on some of the president's assertions on MSNBC Sunday.
We are not experiencing a spike in crime. In fact, we're watching our crime numbers go down.
Meanwhile, in the push for a Russia-Ukraine peace deal,
but I'll be meeting very shortly with President Putin.
President Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin are preparing to hold a summit in Alaska on Friday. CBS News has learned that Putin requested the meeting between the two, though President Trump is still open to possibly including Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Over the weekend, Zelensky said the path to peace must be determined together with Ukraine. That message was backed by multiple leaders in Europe. Vice President J.D. Vance traveled to the United Kingdom over the weekend for talks with Ukrainian and other European officials.
Ukraine will have to be and will be involved. But on Friday, it is important to see how serious Putin is. And the only one who can do that is President Trump.
The president has suggested that a land swap might be part of a potential peace deal, though Zelensky has pushed back, declaring Ukrainians will not gift their land to the occupier. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News.
The president's special envoy for Russia and Ukraine, Keith Kellogg, was in the UK with Vice President Vance over the weekend. He's expected to go to Ukraine to meet with top officials there this week. President Trump is putting more federal law enforcement on the streets of the nation's capital. The president says crime in D.C. is out of control and the federal government must intervene. Violent crime in Washington has significantly decreased for the last 2 years, coming off a dramatic spike in 2023 when D.C. had the 4th highest homicide rate in the nation. President Trump suggested a federal takeover following a high-profile mugging of a former DOJ staffer.
He went through a bad situation, to put it mildly, and there's too much of it. We're gonna do something about it.
The task force will include at least 16 agencies led by the U.S. Park Police. Other federal agencies enlisted include the FBI, U.S. Marshals Service, ATF, DEA, and Homeland Security. The White House says the original plan is to increase these federal patrols for 7 days, but they reserve the right to extend that deadline. President Trump wants to chart a new path for Americans on the road to retirement. An executive order signed Thursday would allow workers to invest savings from their 401k plan in higher risk assets like private equity and cryptocurrency. Private equity and crypto firms have long sought access to the pool of 401k funds worth trillions of dollars.
This would be a rule that would have to develop over time. There's no law that prevents this right now, but right now what happens in the Labor Department is they say whoever is the plan sponsor has to put assets inside of the plan that are in the best interest of the participants.
While the executive order would give workers more choices in retirement planning, the rewards might not be worth the risks. Those assets tend to be volatile and hard to get rid of. They also come with hefty fees. Most retirement plans for Americans are made up of stock and bond investments. Friday, 6th District Congressman Andy Barr was in eastern Kentucky as he campaigns for U.S. Senate. Barr stopped at primary care centers of eastern Kentucky and Hazard. He spoke to staff and other community leaders about what he wants to succeed Senator Mitch McConnell. He says he wants to be approachable.
One thing that I have learned about rural Kentucky is that people appreciate a representative or a senator who's accessible.
We also sat down with Congressman Barr for the first time Friday afternoon for Issues and Answers. You can see that tonight at 7. We discussed a number of state and national hot topics. Parents in Elizabethtown have a new option for early childhood learning in the area. There was a ribbon cutting for a federally funded Head Start at the new Central Kentucky Community Action Council office. It serves children from birth to 5 years old. Officials tell us that the new school in E-Town will be able to serve 64 preschoolers. Kentucky Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman was at Friday's ribbon cutting. She says this is part of Governor Beshear's plan to create pre-K for all throughout Kentucky.
Today is my daughter's last day of preschool, and so she'll be starting kindergarten next week. And so I have lived it as a mother, watching my daughter grow through preschool, learning how to play and communicate and share and grow. And I want that for every Kentucky kid. And so as the governor and I make our push for pre-K for all across the state.
The mission of Central Kentucky Head Start is to deliver quality education that enables children to become school ready.
We're starting to see that sunrise this morning, and we're getting that nice coloration as we're going through the next couple of hours. Here's a look at what we're seeing, especially in Pikeville in London. We got that nice orange more toward the right side of your screen. However, as you travel into Hazard, we are not able to see the sunrise just quite yet as that haze is still taking over the camera. Temperatures this morning are sitting in a mixture of the 60s and 70s, though. As you can see, the warmest temperatures are traveling more towards that Monticello region, 72, and cooler temperatures more towards Clintwood, 60 degrees. As we head into the afternoon, we're looking at a mixture of the upper 80s and low 90s. Caroline.
Thank you, Megan, and thank you for joining Mountain News this morning. More news is on the way. We have more on a new law passed by the Kentucky legislature that goes into effect this fall, prohibiting cell phone use during class.
First